evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Andrea Lopez Herrera with the Prince George County Office of Human Rights, the county's civil and human rights education and enforcement agency. Our office investigates complaints of discrimination, combats human trafficking, ensures equitable language access to county government resources, and provides opportunities for learning and engagement on areas of social justice improvement. It is my pleasure to be back co-hosting another Empowering the Game special event. The Empowering the Game is a partnership series between the Office of Human Rights and the Prince George County Memorial Library System. Highlights athletes who elevated others, who have used their platform to combat injustices in the world, and discover in more depth the life of athletes outside the highlight reels that we may see on TV and social media. This series recognizes different leaders in sports, and my co-host from the Office of Human Rights, Kyla Huntington, and Tiana Davis and I are thrilled to be joined by Trevon Jenifer, a Maryland native and a four-time Paralympian. Trevon Jenifer was born with congenital amputation. He was a successful track athlete in his early years and a top wrestler in high school. As a Maryland native, he attended Huntingtown High School and joined the wrestling team, competing against able-bodied athletes and finishing third in his weight class at the Maryland State Tournament his senior year. Trey started playing wheelchair basketball in 1992 with the Air Capital team in Washington, D.C. He was a 3-year captain and a 2-time All-American for the Eden University men's wheelchair basketball team, and played professional basketball for 2 years overseas in France. Trevon penned an inspirational autobiography from the ground up at 17 years old. Trey is employed with the U.S. federal government, and in his free time, he enjoys hunting, fishing, shooting, camping, and spending time with family and friends. Welcome, Trey.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, even better after that amazing introduction. I don't know where you got all that nice stuff to say about me from.
Well, you've done all the work, so we're just expressing it. So, from that bio, we heard a little bit about your bio, but could you just tell us more about yourself and then your journey throughout sports?
Yeah, so like me being born with no legs, my journey to success has been a little bit different. But, I say that the foundation of my success was laid from my siblings. I'm one of 5 to my mother, and I think I come from like an alpha athlete household.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to say that, at home, I wasn't treated any differently. I got beat up just like anyone else's big siblings or big brother. And I tried to do the same thing to the little brother. So, the household was home for me. And then it felt different when I left, right? Because that's when I was looked at differently. And I think the competitive spirit of sport made me feel at home, right? Like, just like your brothers and sisters are there, you want to be the best, you want to be the alpha. And so me being able to do track and basketball and wrestling, it's just the way that I don't know if you can see it, but like off here, there's legitimately a Catan, the board game, and we have a trophy about who wins. So the competitive spirit even goes now today with my family. So like that's how it's just instilled in us, and I think that it just brings the best out of all of us.
I definitely relate. I think when you come from a big family, like your first competitors are always your siblings, because it's like you have to be the one that's you want to have the one up against them. But that's awesome to hear. Can you tell us more about the Team USA, and then how did you feel when you learned that you made it on the team?
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know is that like I tried out for USA, I want to say 3 years before actually making the team. So the way that the process works is you go to a tryout, and then they decide out of the 28 people that were invited, if you're going to be a part of the top 12 that gets to go to this tournament. Well, 3 years before that, I was cut, and just having the feeling of actually hearing your name called, it's just a tremendous feeling, because before you went through, you're waiting and you don't know what name or number you're on, because they don't read it off in a particular order. Mm-hmm. So like it's like I'm waiting, and you don't hear your name, and it's like a gut punch when you get cut. But when you actually hear your name called and you get to go into the room with the other individuals that made the team, it's a phenomenal experience. And then being able to represent your country, I think shows the support that you have through that journey. A lot of times people don't see, the missed birthdays, they don't see the missed family reunions, family time. And I think that that's the hardest part. They don't see the buildup for us to get to this level and to be a world-class athlete.
So I'm so curious about this in a country the size of the United States, where there are people on Team USA from all over the country. So how does it work? Like, how do you, as you're talking about the things that you miss and what you sacrifice, how does it work for the team to even come together and get to know each other and play?
It's a really good question. So what ends up happening is, because we're so scattered across the United States, my closest teammate from here is in New York City. And then after that, you're looking at Florida, and then you're looking Midwest to out West. I mean, we're scattered across, and we have different backgrounds and different, employment opportunities. So like me, I'm a full-time employee. So the time that I put in is, after or before work. And then I still have my family duties to take care of. We got some guys that are professional athletes still playing overseas, so they're able to put in a lot more time. So the way that it works is that, like, you have to make sure that you do your individual workouts to make sure that you're prepared for tryouts. And then after you're, named to the team, you have to then make sure that you're up to par with everyone else, because we're only as good as our weakest man on the team. And if that's because of a lack of resources or a lack of time being able to dedicate to your craft, you're only hurting the team. And that's something that I constantly play in my head. Like, oh, it's like 4 a.m. I don't want to get up. What are my other teammates doing? That's what kind of pushes me to make sure that we're going after the ultimate goal of winning gold and putting Team USA on that top of that pedestal.
So, not to like backtrack, but you mentioned when you started talking about Team USA, you mentioned that it took 3 times to actually make the team. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey? Like, 3 times is some people would feel discouraged, but you just kept pushing on. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit more about that, how you overcame that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like after you get cut, your name doesn't get called, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bring you into a room and they kind of debrief you on what they thought you did well, what they thought you can work on, and some of the changes that you can have from there. And for me, this wasn't just like a, hey, one time I'm done, I didn't get named to the team. I remember being in college, I literally had a picture of, Team USA and the medals up like on my wall. And it's just something that I wanted to go after. It makes you hungry. I mean, even to this day, when we were going to Paris, I had the picture of the medals on my wall as a constant reminder as what I'm grinding for. And again, I think that this isn't something that like I'm doing for myself. Like, this is for all the sacrifice for the people that put that time in. My kids, like, at this point, they're like, where's dad? We're taking dad to the airport because dad's going to play basketball. Does that mean that dad can't watch my concert today, or my dad's going to miss my football game? Unfortunately, those are the sacrifices that I have to make sure that doesn't go unrewarded. And I think that that's me giving them that opportunity to have that exposure of what it's like to go after something you want, because sometimes it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that we're going to be able to make the team. It's not guaranteed that even if I make the team, that we're going to come home with a medal. But I know that the energy and effort that I put into it, like, they need to make sure that they see like what it takes to get at least the opportunity to call yourself one of the best athletes of all time.
Wow. So it's like your children are also like a way that pushes you into like, reaching for those goals that you have for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's kind of funny, a story. My daughter, she's like, she thinks all dad does is go to work, play video games, and then just shoot baskets with my teammates. But it's a testament to also my ability not only to be able to train at an elite level, but making sure that when I'm home, I am present. I'm present in the things that she's doing. So while she thinks that all dad does is work and maybe go shoot and have fun and play video games with my brothers on basketball court, actuality, she knows that when daddy's here, daddy's home, daddy's doing everything that I can to be, the best father that I can be for her and him.
I love to hear that.
I'll jump in. So this is probably kind of a silly question, but is the pressure the same for the Olympics as it is for maybe the Pan American Games or World Championships or even playing professionally in France? Or is like the Paralympics just a whole different league? Like, what's the pressure like?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think the pressure is definitely higher at the Paralympics, but I will tell you that like World Championships, before 2023, we haven't won gold as Team USA since 2000. And I've been a part of a couple teams that have lost in World Championships to Australia. We've lost to GB. And so you do feel the pressure of being like, you've been here before. The country hasn't been as successful at a World Championship. So you're like, oh, it's like we need to make sure that we put our best foot forward and understand that, every time that we go out there, USA has got a huge target on our back, being gold medal winning 3 times, everybody wants to take down the champion. So like when you're there and you're not able to win a world championship, it stays with you. I remember vividly 2018 losing to GB in Hamburg, Germany, and them celebrating while we're sitting there in second place. Like it constantly replays in my mind over and over and over again. And it's just one of those things where it's like, 2023 came around, you understood that it's like one possession at a time. There's not one basket you're gonna shoot in the first quarter that's gonna win that game. And what's crazy is we were losing in the first quarter of that game, and we knew that if we could just like chip away, that we would have an opportunity to stay in the game. And we were able to win that game by 2 at the end and be the first team to win world championships in 23 years. So I think now in my old age, I'll say that every game I try not to take for granted, because you never really know when it's going to be your last one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump in with some questions. Actually, we already have questions from viewers. So people watching, we love questions. Feel free to type them in the chat wherever you're watching, and we'll share them as our time allows. So one question that we have, I'll put on the screen. I'll also read it out loud. Being so well-traveled while winning many medals, have you been able to enjoy the cities you visited? And what are some experiences in how well you were received in those cities?
That's a really good question. That's a common misconception. All these people get to see, they're like, oh, you've been to, Korea, you've been to Japan, you've been to France. And it's just like, yeah, but, I don't get out much and see the city. A lot of times we're there, we got a practice a day, we got a game a day, we got a film session, and maybe even a lift or a training session a day. And it's just like your day is jam-packed. And I mean, if you think about it, like you in your 4-year journey to get to this point, you put in all that work and dedication. You want to make sure that you're not going to wait until you get to the finish line to enjoy the things that you have around you, being starstruck, being in a different city, a different country. And I think that we knew that when we get, boots on the ground, we understand that there's a job that still needs to be done. And it's not done until, the last horn goes off. If we're lucky enough to get a medal around our neck, that's when we can, sit back, relax, and take everything in. I think I will say, though, that, I have been fortunate enough to travel to different, monuments around the world. And one of my favorite stories that I'll tell is we were in Rio going for our first gold medal. We have a day off in between crossovers, meaning you have your pool play, and then after you go to pool play, you'll have crossovers. Crossovers, you lose, you're basically done. You don't have the opportunity to win. And so the coaches were like, hey, we're going to let you guys go out, have fun, so you can decompress, not worried about the pressures of the game. And it's a real cloudy day, and they're like, we're going to go to the Christ Redeemer. And they were like, you're going to get up there, you're not going to be able to see anything. It's a cloudy day. So we're like, we don't have anything else to do. And at this point, I'm done being in the village. Half the team's done being in the village. Let's try. And I remember we go up. It's like 3-hour track to get up there. A bunch of stairs we got to go up, and it's long day. We get up to the top. It's completely clouded. You can't see anything. You see the lights bouncing off the clouds. Then all of a sudden, like a front like moves in, and it like blows all of the clouds away. And like we're the only ones up there. You see the Christ Redeemer. You see the city below, and it's just like for 15 minutes, we were the only ones up there, and we were able to see this monument. And it's just like breathtaking, right? And who knows if we would have came 15 minutes earlier or 15 minutes later if this would have happened. And then we're there soaking it all in for that 15 minutes, and all of a sudden the front moves in, the clouds move in again, and now we can't see anything. So it was just one of those awesome stories that I'm able to tell. But normally in a basketball situation, we go there, we take care of our basketball priorities, which is number one. And by the time we get done, we're so exhausted. We just want to get home to our family.
Right. That's a great answer. And the person who asked it has already said thank you in the chat. I'm going to ask one more question from the public who she's sharing that she's a special educator, and her students have various disabilities, and those proud moments involve participating in specifically the Special Olympics she mentions. And then her question is, and I'm wondering if maybe you want to expand on this to include Paralympics, that she's saying after high school, how can students become further involved in Special Olympics, or I'm going to add Paralympics, and like pursuing sport and activity?
Absolutely. So I think that, so I used to go to a school called James Ryder Randall in my elementary. It's kind of had PT, it had special education in there as well. And then it had a mainstream part of the school. And I think one of the biggest things is that understanding that after you leave, you want to be able to give back. But I think it's really important to be able to touch base with those organizations, because they're the ones that actually are on the front line of being able to provide these different assistance to these individuals. For me, it's like when I finished playing wheelchair basketball and I want to start to give back, I started to go back to those programs that have these institutions. So I'll go to the NWBA, I'll go to my local team here in Fairfax that we have to try to, teach the next generation of athletes what it's like to be able to play at this level, or give them little nuggets of information. Some of these kids that I've actually had the opportunity to work with are now going on and they're playing playing basketball at the respective colleges that they're going to. And I can give them what my experience was being a collegiate athlete. So like, even if it's not in the realm of, hey, you're going to be an Olympian that's going to go here, or a Paralympian that's going to do this sport. Even if it's like, hey, so this was my study and regiment to get my grades where they needed to be to ensure that I graduated with the honors. Like those little nuggets that we can give that I didn't necessarily have when I was growing up is important to be able to go back to the grassroots, but also go into those organizations that give you those opportunities to speak with those young folks.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. And also the commenter, the same person who asked that question, says that her children went to James Ryder Randall. Many exclamation points. So what a small world it is. So
absolutely. They probably didn't go as long ago as I went, but yeah, no, absolutely.
I have a question about the logistics of all of your travel for you and your teammates. How do you travel with the wheelchair? So do you have like your everyday wheelchair and then one specifically for basketball? And then when you travel, do you have like a spare wheelchair just in case your whichever wheelchair gets damaged in transportation? Like how do you plan for your travel?
Yeah, this is a hot topic. So like I have two wheelchairs. I have my everyday wheelchair, which is kind of smaller, shorter. It's more compact compared to my basketball wheelchair, which is actually taller. The frame is rigid, it's welded in all the spots, and then the wheels are angled out like this. So like fitting into normal doors, it's impossible. You have to pop off some of the wheels to get them on. So what ends up happening for me, the way that I travel, I take my chair, my ball chair, to the gate with me, and I'll gate check my chair. And I'll have spare wheels with my chair as well. And then what'll happen is when I land at my destination, even if it's like a connection, they'll bring it up at my connection or my final destination. I'll inspect my chair right then and there. Because I've had multiple times that I've had cracks, I've had breaks, and that's something that we would have to take care of right there, then and there at the airport. I have a couple teammates that will actually check their wheelchair, their ball chair, like they do their bags. But then I won't get to see, if I got like a connection, I won't get to see my chair until I get to my final destination. So being able to rectify that problem would have to wait until I get to my final destination, which I don't necessarily like. I can say that airlines are getting a lot better at what they're doing. I mean, I know when I'm flying with, I'm not going to name airlines, but when I fly a particular airlines, what they do is they inspect the wheelchair. They say, you know, this is what's on the wheelchair. This is how much it weighs. This is how the dimensions of it. And then they'll tag it. And when they tag it, it's inspected. And then they ship it on to the next location. When they receive it, it's inspected again, and then you go on from there. So I think that it's very important for me and my process when I fly is to keep it with me at every destination, and it's inspected at every time that I land, so that way that we can rectify the situation if there's a problem. Knock on wood.
Okay. What was I going to say? I actually was going to say something about how I feel like society as a whole is becoming more cognizant of how not accessible our country especially is for disabled people. And I was wondering if you feel like this greater awareness has like positively impacted para athletics at all. Like if you've seen a positive change.
So I'm gonna break this down into two separate points because I think this is a very important topic. I think when we talk about accessibility within the United States, we understand that we have the ADA, and the ADA was passed in order for accessibility for individuals with disabilities. But what a lot of people don't understand that was just a framework. So they laid the foundation. And I think sometimes we take it for granted and think that, oh, well, this is under the ADA. We should be good. We should be happy where we are. But we tend to forget that that's the foundation. That's not our ceiling, right? We need to continue building off of where we're going with that. And I think that a lot of the time when we have, let's say, for instance, accessibility issues, what we deem accessibility issues here, we don't really understand what we have in regards to what other people are suffering with in other countries. I remember going when I was playing professionally in France, there was a 12-inch step going into the local grocery store. So like if someone that wasn't ambulatory as myself was there, there's no way they're getting into the grocery store, which means you're having to go another half a mile down the road to go to a different grocery store. An inconvenience. I will say that here in the United States that we have the opportunity that we're starting to see when people look at para sports, they're willing to understand that like we need to make sure we're doing the right things. I will say that there are times where it can be detrimental what we're doing. I'll give you an example. There was one time I'm getting ready to go on stage to do a speech. They didn't have a ramp there. I was like, no, it's okay. I can take care of it. I can get on the stage, no problem. But what I'm not realizing is that I'm letting them off the hook because what happens if that next speaker isn't able to go on? So like now we're getting people to understand that maybe instead of it being a specialty, a special need, let's just make it to the point where it's just standard. We have a ramp at all stages. Everyone can use a ramp. Why not just make this something that's just universal in that way that it's starting to change the way that we view things and accessibility, where it's just universal and it doesn't really affect anyone. Let's say, for instance, you go into a hotel, there's a walk-in shower there. Have a shower that has a sitting bench. That sitting bench isn't in the way when it's like folded up, right? So why can't we just make that standard for a hotel room so that way that you're not like, okay, I need an accessible room. All of our accessible rooms are taken. Now what do you do? So I think that that's when we're starting to make things more universal. Like, I just think that this topic, like I said, I can go on like for days. And this is why, like, there's some of the things that I'm very passionate about because I've traveled to like foreign countries, Chile, Peru, Brazil. Like you go to these different countries and you realize like what we have are miles miles above what other countries have, but like we still are way, way below, still at a foundational level of where we need to be.
Oh, sorry, were you going to say something, Andrea?
No, I think that's actually, I think it just kind of like exposes like the importance of like how you said like it should just be a standard. I mean, like as for me, like I am an investigator, and sometimes we see cases of like we have like disability cases, and we have seen circumstances where people have felt that their disability has interfered with just basic things that they've wanted to do. But if it was just a standard, then it wouldn't even be an issue. So no, I think we should definitely be. I just really love what you said. Like it just kind of highlights like the importance of just not being complacent on where we are right now with like, okay, we have a law that's passed, yeah, but what else can we do to grow off of what has been passed? And
Exactly.
that's just with like anything.
Exactly. One of the biggest things that I say is like I think that we are all sympathetic for
Mhm.
things that happen. Like we're sympathetic for the fact that things need to be a particular way. Accessibility needs to be a particular way for those individuals with disabilities. But the moment that you become immersed a part of it, when someone in your family becomes disabled, once you maybe acquired a disability, that's when your mindset starts to change, right? That's when it's like, oh, well, maybe I should be looking at this from a different perspective. Now you're immersed in it. Now we're starting to see more activism from that individual, whereas it went from sympathy to action. And I think that's where we just have to change the way that we perceive things as far as accessibility goes.
Yeah, we actually interviewed a wheelchair user a few weeks back. He was an author, and he gave us, his idea of what a perfect accessible world would include. And his book was about the nightlife. So he was talking about how clubs would have bathrooms that have Kyla, do you remember what they were called? They were like the lifts that would help lift people from their wheelchairs to the toilet. And what were some of the other things, like dance floors that were large enough for the wheelchair as well as other people who don't need wheelchairs, so that he's not like in the way of other people. They aren't tripping over his chair, because there was like an incident where he was asked to leave the club. And it opened my eyes to so many things that I never thought of, because, and I think Kyla said this during that interview, we're all just an accident away from being disabled, right?
Oh yeah. Well, those of us who are not currently disabled are only temporarily abled, for sure. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And I don't know why this is something that it seems like it's hard for people who are currently able-bodied to recognize and appreciate. But I feel like if we just would all recognize the truth of that, what you're talking about. And I love this. I actually put it in the chat that the ADA is our foundation, not our ceiling. Mm-hmm. That it's like the minimum standard. And I think for people listening, and our viewers, and like, we're so glad you're here with us. And hopefully this is giving you something to think about, is like, what are the spaces that we have control over? And like, what are ways that we can make them or lobby for them to be more accessible to all people? Can I have a question. Oh, and actually here we actually have a comment from one of our viewers who says that they can personally attest to that. That sense of we're only temporarily abled, But I did want to pivot a little bit, if I could, because I really want to take some time to talk about your book.
Yeah. And
so you wrote this book when you were 17. It's called From the Ground Up. Can you talk to us about this book? And I mean, I have many questions about it, but just maybe you could take the viewers through like how you came to write the book and what you're saying in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what ended up happening was I was wrestling. I was getting into my senior year, and the author that wrote an article on me from the Washington Post was like, hey, I think this would be a phenomenal opportunity to get like your story out there. And he said that I think you should co-author a book with me. I was like, being a book at the age of 17, who wouldn't want to jump on this opportunity? Little did I know, for the people that are out there listening, it's a lot of work to write a book. I remember wanting to, I'm just like, I just want to get ready for prom. I just want to just go to this party. And it's like, no, I just need a couple more minutes to write this book. And so it takes a lot of work to write the book. But I think that, like, for me, it was an opportunity not only to share my perspective of what my life was like leading up from my birth all the way through my years to wrestle through my senior year. I was also able to tell the story of my parents, like my mom, have some of my friends be a part of it, because I think experience and perspective is vastly different. With my wife, we're actually trying to work on a book and speaking series, because for the first time that she interacted with me was the first time she interacted with a person with a disability. And you go from that to the fact that now she's an advocate for the disabled community. My children are advocates and they don't even realize it, right? Like, I remember someone asked me, it was like, well, your kids, like, how do they look at you differently? And I'm like, this is all they know, their basketball team, which they call, some of their uncles, and they're just like, that's this is life. My daughter, I remember she looked and she was watching a show, and the show had an individual that was an actor playing as a person in a wheelchair. It's like, oh, does that person have a disability? I was like, no, that's just an actor. And she goes, well, why can't they cast somebody in a wheelchair to play that role? And like, for an 8, 9, 10-year-old to see that perspective, like, it shows like this is what her viewpoint is from birth. And I think me being able to write that book at the age of 17 was just able to show my mom's perspective, raising one child out of the 5 of them to have a disability, how she navigated that. Then me going through, going to the grocery store, being looked at differently, being laughed at, dealing with that, but then finding my niche in sport, I think just shows perspective. It shows a journey. And I just think that the book just tells a perspective that some people can resonate with.
Thank you. I did want to know about if you had another one coming out, and it sounds like you're working on one. Do you think, is that something we can look for soon? I know we've just talked about how much work it is, so no pressure.
No, yeah. We're still working through the weeds of it. I'm also my wife does not like to public speak. But I think that like I said, her story, her perspective is one that she can tell, and I think she can grasp a lot, and a lot of people can connect with it. So as soon as I'm able to, get her on board, I might have to, pull some extra diaper duty here soon, and maybe we can get her on board and we can get that book going.
Thank you. One of the things that, Tiana and I, as we were thinking about this program and the fact that you're from Maryland, Tiana was thinking about this question, but I'm going to take it from her, which is about the pressure of representing an area. And actually, Andrea and I talked to Koi Young, the gymnast, last year for this series, Empowering the Game, or 2 years ago. I can't remember now. Time is a lie. But we talked to Koi Young recently, and so what we're wondering is, like, how does it feel? And one of the comments we had was a wonderful comment, which was like, thanking you for representing yourself and your family and your team and your country and all that you do. And we were thinking about, like, do you feel pressure to represent an area, like to be someone from Maryland, or is the fact that there's a lot of other, or not a lot, but there's some other Marylanders who have been very successful in sport, does that take the pressure down, or I feel like there's a question in there somewhere.
No, I get it. So what's kind of crazy is that if you looked at the medals that all the athletes bring in from the state of Maryland, like, we surpass a lot of countries and all-time medals. I mean, you got a lot of greats that come from the state of Maryland. There's something in the water, or there's something in the blue crab. There's something out there that makes our athletes winners. For me, I don't think there's added pressure because I think it's the support that backs you through this entire time. for me, it's about the people that encourage you to be the best version of yourself. I think throughout all of my time, it's never been about me. It's never been about the accolades. It's never been about those things. It's been about being a representative of more than myself, right? Like, and this is why I think it's so awesome to be able to say I'm a member of Team USA, right? You know, it's one thing to be Captain America, right? You're the figure right there of Marvel, right? Like that is what that person is. But to be a member of Team USA, I'm just representing the country, but to be a part of, you know, Maryland, to be a part of PG County, it just shows my background, my heritage, the things that I do it for, my family, you know, the sponsors that, you know, end up coming in and helping me out to get past that threshold. I don't think it's added pressure by any means. I think that it's a way to say thank you. You know, all the stuff that you put in to help me get to this point, like it's not my medal, right? It's our medal. That's why I'm like, if you see me and you're like, Trey, can I see your medal? Absolutely. You can hold my medal, you can wear my medal, because without the support of those people, like, this wouldn't be possible. So this is not just my medal. It's the people that have supported me, the fans, the supporters, it's everyone's medal.
Speaking of medals, I think I saw that you have 8 total, or no, 8 golds alone, and then you have a silver and a bronze. Is there one that stands out to you, like maybe not means the most, but is there one that's a little bit special to you? Maybe there's a story behind it or something.
You know, that's like saying, like, which one's your favorite kid? I don't know. They all have something special. I mean, they really do. Like, even like people can try to poo-poo on like the bronze medal, right? The bronze medal is my first medal that I've ever had. So I was a rookie on Team USA, going to London, winning that medal. That's near and dear, like, to my heart. Or the first medal that we got, which was in Rio 2016. And then you heard the story about going to see the Christ Redeemer. And then you got the medal from Tokyo, and that medal that comes off the hills of COVID, and seeing what, you know, everyone had to battle to come back to, right? So like that one was no fans in the stands. What does it take for you and your team to get past that finish line? And then you got the most recent one in Paris, which was where my start happened, which was in Paris, and 16 years prior to that. So like all of them just have a part of, you know, I can't just, like I said, it's like saying which kid is your favorite, and I'm just like, you can't answer the question, because they're all unique in their own little way.
And so how did your first Paralympics was 2012? Yeah.
Correct.
How did that feel compared to your most recent showing?
Yeah. So I think the biggest difference was my approach to it, in the sense of 2012. I remember going in there and I'm just like, oh, lights, camera, there's a basketball. I'll be frank with you. I remember when we were playing the bronze medal game, I airballed twice. I was like that's, the jitters were just there, right? Now you're going into, you know, 2024, and like you're a vet at this point, aka old guy on the team. But like you understand what to expect. You know what it's taken for you to get to this point, and you're understanding that it's not going to be just one possession. It's not going to be one game that's going to define you as an athlete. It's not going to define your career. You know, once you look at it from that perspective, you understand that, like, okay, this turnover isn't as detrimental as you might think it is. You're able to rebound off of this. And I think that that's the biggest way that I've changed from 2012 to 2024, is just my mindset. Now, if you look at the game film, you might be like, Trey, you look a little crazy out there on the basketball court. Hey, yes, that might be true. But like the way that I process the game, the way that I look at mistakes or perceived mistakes are completely different.
And we talked a little bit about this backstage, but should we be looking out for you at LA 2028? Like, it's basically home. You're gonna, yeah.
That's the thing that keeps pulling me back. That's the thing that's just like, how can you say not to, I've been like, quick story. I'm a storyteller. That's one of the things that, if you talk to anyone, we're playing France in the quarterfinals in Paris this last year. And I remember we come out first, we line up, right? And then they announce the second team. So they play our national anthem first. And like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Anytime I hear the national anthem, like, you get giddy. Their national anthem played. This stadium was rocking. Like, I remember just like, I'm looking at my teammates. I'm like, I can't hear myself think. I can hear my heartbeat. That's how loud it is in here. And this team, no offense, like they played hard, but we were beating them pretty bad. And like, I think they're down like 20, 30 points. They score, the stadium goes crazy. Like, they just tied the game up. And I'm just like, could you imagine what that would be like playing in LA on American soil? Like, it just, to be able to hear it, and this is going to be like, this would be my first time playing for Team USA in the United States. Like, it's kind of hard to say no to, but if this old body can make it, we might be able to see you in LA 2028.
That sounds so exciting. So I had a question. This is kind of backtracking again, but you mentioned how you start when you first got on Team USA and you were really young, right? And now you're a little bit older, not too much. But how is
I appreciate
it now
that.
when you bring in when you have like new players on the team? Do you take them like under mentorship or guidance on navigating through the journey that you all are about to take?
Yeah, I remember one of the young bucks was lined up behind me, his first Paralympic Games. I think he's 21. I think he was turning 21. And I remember before every game that we would leave the tunnel, I would shake hands with him and I would be like, hey, enjoy the moment, right? Enjoy the moment. Because I remember what it was like to be that, maybe not that young, but to be the young guy on the team, right? To be in awe of everything that's going on around you. And I think having mentors at that time helped me like be able to perform at my best. Maybe not in that bronze medal game in London, but it was being able to talk to the rookie to know like, hey, we're out here playing just another game. We're in here, we're going to practice. It just allows me to be able to give back because I know what it's like to be that person. So if I can just be like, even if he didn't say, hey, Trey, I'm really nervous, right? Hey, it's all good. We're out here. We're about to go have fun, right? Like, that's the big part about me. Maybe it's not like, hey, like this is what you need to expect. It's just being like, hey, we're good. If you know that you're good and I got your back, you got my back, and we're going to go through this and we're going to go through this battle and have a great time. I think that that's the thing that kind of the mentorship aspect of it. I mean, obviously it's easy to do the X and O's when we're watching video and stuff like that, but I think it's the emotions of the game that you want to kind of control, because you can have your peaks and you can have your valleys. So, but if we can keep them like on just a slight ride, I think that's the most important thing when we're out there playing at a high level.
And then going into like mentoring, if what would you say to someone who may be watching right now, or that you may have met in person that has the same desires as you, who wants to make it to to become a Paralympian? What would you say to them?
I would say that even if it's not even about the Paralympics, is understanding that there comes and there requires a level of sacrifice that you're not really able to understand until you're in the middle of it. When I was in college, it was, hey, do you go out and party with your friends? Go to the house, have a couple beers, or do you get in early, night rest, so then you can wake up the next morning to go put in work? Is it when you're dead tired because your kids are sleep or sick, can't get them to sleep, you finally get them to sleep at like 1, 2 in the morning, but your workout scheduled for 4? Are you going to be like, I'll just take today off? Or is it like, hey, we're going to get going, get out there at 4 o'clock, because it's not just you that's up at 4 o'clock, but mom's up at 4 o'clock too, to take care of the kids? Or is it the fact that, hey, you missed your kids' first words or their first steps, something that you can't get back because there's only one of them? Is it because you want to be able to say that I'm okay, I can take the day off? Or is it because you want to get out there and go for what you want? I don't think people really understand, like, there comes a level of sacrifice and it's not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So are you doing it because you want the notoriety, or do you want it because this is something that you actually want to go for? One of the biggest things that my coach told me is that you can't be a person that is excited about the outcome, right? Because the outcome can change. If we win, we lose. Are you a success or you're a failure? What you have to be toned into is the journey, because the journey to getting to the outcome is the part that you're going to relive and be telling stories about for years in or years out. It's the journey. For me, it's the time off the court with my teammates, playing those video games, listening to 90s R&B music back at the hotel or in the village. Like, those are the moments that we're going to live with forever. Those are the stories that we're going to be telling forever.
I love that. Thank you for that.
So you mentioned a common misconception earlier. Are there any other misconceptions about wheelchair basketball or para-athletics in general that, like, you could clear up now?
Yeah, I think the common misconception is that this is just a hobby. Like, we're just out here and we're just giggly, ready, have fun, enjoying the time. Oh no, we get serious. Oh, it gets serious. I mean, the competitive spirit, like, you think you see fire when you see, NFL football or NBA basketball. Like, our Paralympic counterparts, we bring it just as much, right? Like, we have rivalries. We have people that we don't like on the other side of the pond either, right? Like, those are like true. Like, if I knock someone over in a game from a particular team, which I will not say, I'm not sorry for it. It is what it is. It's a part of the game. Just because, like, there's bad blood there, and like, we are masters of our own craft, right? I want people to understand that this is not something that we take lightly. Sometimes people think that, oh, this comes around once every 4 years, they're just out there. No, this is a 4-year grind to get to this point. I have to continuously train to make sure my body's in tip-top shape to get to this point. So I don't want anyone thinking that, like, what we do is just for fun. We go to the YMCA, put up a couple buckets, and call it a day. No. Like, we put in 6-7 day schedules. Some of these schedules, when we get together as a team, we're working 2-3 a days in trainings, not to include like sports nutrition, not sports science or sports psych. Like, the money that we put into it, the time that we put into it, like, it's almost on the verge of professional. We just don't get paid like professionals do, which I wish that was the case. But, like, that's a story for another day.
Well, I'll ask the question that you've just said is a story for another day, because it was something that I think members of the public don't necessarily recognize. Is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that so much of the work that you do or that Olympians do is self-funded to be able to do the trainings, to get to these places. That's so much of what you do. You have to, it's not like there's some magic genie that's paying your way, right? Can you talk? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but so I'll be frank with you. So the way that it works is that when you get invited, so I put in to go to a tryout. If I'm selected to go to the tryout, I'm responsible for my own pay to go to tryout. Now, once I'm named to the team, or once I'm named as an alternate, my flights are paid, my housing's paid when we're at training camps, my food's paid when we're at training camps. In regards to at-home stipend, we were given, I think the lowest my stipend's been was 900. The most my stipend's been, I want to say, is like 2,000, but that's every quarter. And what that stipends is supposed to be paid for within that 3-month time frame is whatever nutrition you need, whatever body recovery you need, whatever gym memberships you need, whatever equipment that you need. Now, and I don't mean to make it sound like I'm poo-pooing on $2,000 being able to come in, but my basketball chair alone is $5,000. So like the upkeep of that is not really helping us in our cause. Now, for every gold medal that is won at the Paralympics or the Olympic level, you get $37,500. Now, like I said, if you break that up into a 4-year cycle, let's just bump that up, round it up to $40,000. That's $10,000 a year. That's less than $1,000 a month. So you're expecting Olympic and Paralympic athletes, if they win gold, to be rewarded of an amount of $1,000, less than $1,000 a month. So obviously it's not the money that we're playing for, right? It's being able to say that we're representing our country. It's about honor. It's about, being able to be something bigger than just yourself.
Also, to follow up, I know every 4 years when the Olympics and Paralympics come around, we hear about how the medals actually are taxed when you come back to your own country. Can you talk about how that works? Because I've never quite understood it.
So normally it depends. And coming back from France was the big one, just because they tax on whatever you win. So like, even if I get paid from the USOPC and it was because I won in France in theory is supposed to be able to take a part of that tax. Now the USOPC and their attorneys, I don't know what they did, but they worked that out with them. But we don't necessarily see that. We don't see the argument behind that, I guess. So like, we're not so much involved. Our athlete representatives, they're the ones that take care of that. We might get the 1099 that comes pre-tax, or when we start to fill out our taxes with our CPAs and stuff like that, they're the ones that take care of those things. So not necessarily falls on the athlete.
You just brought up another question for me. Sorry to be a question hog.
No, you're fine.
Do you guys have a union? Like, I know different sports have unions. Do you guys have a union? And is it for just USA wheelchair basketball, or is it the U.S. Paralympic Association? Like, how does that work?
We do not have a union. We don't have a union in wheelchair basketball, and we do not have a union within the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. If you've seen in recent months, they are working on trying to set up almost a retirement plan for those individuals that are starting to compete in Milan. They're going to start in LA, and then I believe in Salt Lake City, which is the next Winter Olympics after that. And so they're starting to try to build up something so that if you make one of those teams, after you turn 55, you get a lump sum of retirement from that. But as of right now, we're not unionized. I know that this is something that our athlete reps within the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee are working for, because a lot of the times our athletes might not have, so they'll have insurance through once they make the team, but you have to be on the team to get those insurances. So like, it's just one of those things where they're trying to fight for the athlete to be able to have some of these things that professional athletes have as they're going through theirs. But I can only speak to my experience with that. So I know the wheelchair basketball is not unionized.
And then I had one more question, but I don't know if we have any more questions from the audience that we might want to.
So I'm having trouble unmuting myself. Well, somebody does want to know if you would consider coaching for Team USA.
If I can be honest, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like I said, there's a switch that I turn on and off, and that switch seems to be a little bit of aggressive when I start to go out there and play. So I think that once I'm in my mellow phase, like my toned down phase, I think that I would love to do that at an Olympic and Paralympic level. But I love coaching junior programs. I love having camps with the kids. I think that for me, it's about giving back to that next generation of athletes. And I think that understanding that I know where I came from, which was a small kid from PG County, Maryland, got the opportunity to play for a team in Washington, D.C. Like, who knows, you're going to have another little Trey coming out and giving them that opportunity to just be a part of something that just changed my life for the better. So I think that that's just something that I want to get back to at the younger generation. So that's the young kids. The big kids, yeah, I'm not ready for that yet. Not just yet.
Did we have any other ones?
Yeah, but we do. We've got one that just came. There's actually a few. So I don't know how much time we're going to have, but here we've got one that says, "What's your physical recovery like, and how does insurance work after the competitions?"
So as long as you're a part of Team USA, so like when I get named to the team, I don't have insurance. I'll have insurance all the way through to the time that I say, "Hey, I don't want to go for the next team." So this last team, I had insurance. There was a new tryout for this past January, and I said, I'm going to take the year off, let my body recover. So technically through USA, I don't have insurance. Luckily, I'm employed, so I have insurance elsewhere. But if being an athlete was a full-time thing, I would technically not have insurance at this time.
We have one more. Oh, sorry. Did I cut? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So the other part was like my body recovery. So the older I get, a lot more time has to be taken to the whole body recovery thing. So I do see, especially when I'm at the peak of training, I'll see a masseuse like once a week, once every other week, just to loosen up some of the tightened shoulders. A lot of the times we see a lot of issues with the rotator cuff, especially in wheelchair basketball. So I work really close with our sports med people at the USOPC. And then when I'm home, if there's a aggravated issue, I go to PT, and that's like huge. Like having those services here where I am, having my PT, they get me back and where I need to be by the time it's time to train.
All right.
I think so. I will say we do have a few more questions, but I think we're probably out of time. So
Okay.
So for those people who are watching, if we didn't get to your question, we're so sorry, but thank you so much for being chatty. We love that.
Feel free to send your questions to the Instagram. I know they posted the Instagram up there. Feel free. I can say that like I am good at getting back to you, but just give it some time. So if I miss your question or your post, we'll definitely get back to you within, I would say, probably 48 hours or so.
All right. Well, Trey, it's been amazing to talk with you. Thank you for spending some time with us to just learn more about your journey and, through Team USA and everything that you've been working through. For those of you watching, whether joining us live or tuning in on demand later, thank you for taking the time to be with us. You are why we do what we do. Make sure you read Trey's book, From the Ground Up, if you haven't had the chance to do so already, and then follow him on social media to stay up to date with his activities and any other questions you may have. He'll get to you when he has the chance. And we have some more great things coming up, including next week's Lunch and Learn with Mike Corrado, author of the YA book Flammer, in conversation about his brand new graphic novel for adults, Gaysons. Learn more about this and all the work that we do by going to civilrights.mypgc.us. And please visit our friends at the library, pgcmls.info's events, to see the incredible things that we've got going on. Again, thank you so much, Trey, and everyone, good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.